Hi, I'm Kiano Moju, Los Angeles-based cookbook author of Africali, Recipes from My Jikoni. And today I'm going to be making my pumpkin chapati. If you've never heard of chapati, this is a very lucky day for you because it is one of the most delicious flatbreads. My version is Kenyan. My mom's family's from Kenya, dad's family's from Nigeria, born in California, hence Africali. This really plays off of what's in my pantry, what's in my cupboard. I feel like if I'm making bread, it's because I don't know what else to serve with my food and I start rummaging around. And these are things, especially in fall, I have because if you've ever made a pumpkin bread, you have this can. You probably bought more than one of these cans and you're like, what do I do with this? All right, to start off, I'm using all-purpose flour just because it's very forgiving. You can use, maybe a higher protein flour, but if you're starting off, start with all-purpose. Gonna add some salt and probably salt heavier than you think. In order for bread to taste really nice, it needs to be well salted. And you're gonna whisk it with your whisk you're born with, your hands. Just fan it out and just make sure the salt is well distributed. Gonna go in with the pumpkin. This is plain unsweetened pumpkin puree, and this is taking place of water. So a classic chapati will be made with water. My grandma does it with water and milk, but there's so much hydration in the fruit, and this is why I think this is easier to make than the classic. So I'm gonna use a spatula for this because it is a little sticky, but a lot of the entire process of chapati making is done with your hands. It's bread, you're gonna be kneading, you're gonna be rolling. So save up on your dishes. Like these bowls are for show purposes only. Otherwise, scoop that thing right out the can. So once the dough starts looking scraggly, it's like little chunks and bits like this, I'm gonna add in some butter. I'm just gonna add in a tablespoon. You can use oil, but butter makes everything more delicious, so that's what we're gonna do. And then just mix that in. And then once you really can't see visible orange blobs of pumpkin, this is when we can switch to the hands. I like to just start really just squeezing it together. Really like the squeeze and fold. And just make sure you're really targeting any big patches of flour you see because you don't want them left behind. And then once you feel like it's shaped, it's okay if there's a little bit left behind. That's gonna help us fold. So this is all gonna come onto the counter. If your dough doesn't have visible dry flour, add some dusting flour, but mine has a little bit, so I don't need it to knead it. So now I'm gonna knead it. In order to save your arms, use your body weight. Just bring it up and lean forward. This is how you don't get tired from kneading. Okay, if you're just standing here straight and you're going pop, 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 that's your arm workout, and if that's what you want, go for it. But I don't like stress or problems while I cook, so I'm gonna let my body weight do the work. Look at that. That big scraggly mess turned into this like beautiful, it's not even orange, it's a yellow, pale yellow dough. And this is what you want. It's cohesive, there's no more flour, but if you try to stretch it, it's gonna tear apart because this dough needs to rest. So it becomes one thing. So what I like to do is just shape it. And when I shape, I just take my hands on the outside and scoop under. So it's kind of creating a seam at the bottom. And then you can use a little butter or oil. Just rub on the outside just so your dough doesn't dry out, and cover. You can use plastic wrap or a clean kitchen towel. Just make sure no air is getting in and let it chill. 10-15 minutes until it's soft and ready to roll. To start rolling this out, lightly dust the work surface so nothing sticks. And then this is the part where shape does not matter. The goal is just to spread it out. Very much like if you ever made cinnamon rolls, this is a cinnamon roll step. But the idea is just to stretch. This is where me and my grandmother differ. I roll my dough super wide. She rolls into like a little oval. I use a lot of butter. She uses just a little bit of oil. It's like anywhere, any opportunity to do something different than me, she does. And hers are incredible. I'm gonna add in some butter. Not all of it, because you don't want it spilling out. The idea is the fat here, you can use butter, we use olive oil a lot, is gonna help create and keep those layers. Until it's like a little snake. And if you see that, you know, this middle part's a little thicker than these ends, just give it a little stretch. Try to even it out. And this will help make sure that all your pieces are more or less the same size, but also who is judging? Sometimes you need like a smaller chapati in the mix for when you just want a snack. So now for the cutting, I like using a bench scraper just because it's not going to damage the countertops like a knife. You can use metal one, plastic one, and you're going to cut into as many chapatis as you want. So if you want big ones, maybe to use as a wrap, cut less. If you want little ones on the side with your food, cut smaller. And then you take this little spiral and crush it. Just smash it down. And then another little rest. It's the whole thing of bread making. It's make it, let it rest, make it, let it rest. Because if you don't and you force it and rush it, they might look good, but they will be tough little frisbees and very unenjoyable to eat. They've rested. Very important to keep the rest covered while you are not working. Otherwise, they'll be crusty as hell. I like to, with my hands, flatten it out. You do this on the counter. I'm doing this in my hand because this is the way I was taught. And then this is where shaping matters. Many techniques, but what I like to do is roll up and do like a eighth turn, not even a full quarter. If you go a quarter turn, you're gonna end up with square chapos, and we want round ones. And if you see the shape gets wonky, just use your fingers to correct it. This is very tactile. You can control how this looks. I think when I was first learning the roll, I thought it's just up to the fates, you know, whatever happened, happened. It's dough, you can manipulate it, you can shape it, you can stretch it, you can squish it. You really can control the shape. Now the thinness or thickness of your dough really depends. I will say Kenyan chapati is meant to be on the thinner side. So like right here, where it's like a 1/4 inch thick, which if you buy like frozen parathas, you might see too thick for a chapo. It's like slightly thicker than a tortilla is what you want. And if you find any sticking happening, I would say flour your pin if it's sticking to your rolling pin really, really lightly. If you feel like you're just like rolling in circles, where like I'm rolling this a lot and it's not getting any bigger, it just means your dough needs to rest. So stop, put it off to the side, and then move on to the next one. So I'm gonna get our first one ready. Pan is nice and hot. I'm gonna give this a final few rolls. It's rested for a little bit so it can stretch a little bit more. My mom thinks I always make them too thick, so I hear her in my mind, make it thinner. But with this, you don't want to fry the chapati. The idea is just to lubricate the pan because you don't want it to be dry and ashy from the flour. So we're gonna lightly just grease it up. You're waiting to see this top dough no longer be sticky. So it's gonna cook, yes, it's cooking from the bottom, but it's also steam is coming through. So maybe after a few seconds, your top is it's gonna become, I don't know how to describe it, but you can tell it's less sticky. It's like semi-cooked. And the moment it becomes semi-cooked, okay, here's what's happening. It gets a little bit darker. You're gonna brush the top with some butter. That way, it has a little lubrication once you flip it. So very lightly brush, and so if you try doing this brushing while it's sticky, it'll be a hot mess, so just wait. But this is how you know you've done your job well. You see those bubbles? That means steam is penetrating and swirling, going through all those layers you created, and you've done a good job. Now get it a little bit up. There's just like a little bit of color. It's a light char, deep brown. We're not going for blackening or any of that. Just gonna let the other half cook. And I just like to move it around just because if you look at this, the heat's not even. It's a very concentrated source just in that ring. So you make sure it's cooking evenly. So move it around the pan a little bit. And I like to flip it one more time just to be sure, because the last thing you want is undercooked raw dough. Ugh. All right, Chapo in. And we like them to be very soft. This is not like a crispy, flaky flatbread. It's supposed to be a soft, tender. And the way you can get that softness is by sandwiching them between 2 plates so it can finish steaming as you cook up all your batches. And we have some done chapatis, like these.